Hey guys, Chris with Tillman Family Farms. Today we're going to continue with our prepping and homestead defense series. So today I want to talk about how you're going to keep your farm running. A lot of us that prep, or even just us hunters, we have freezers that are slammed full of meat. And plus with us, we have a farm business, so we have freezers that are full of a lot of meat. So we've always kind of thought ahead, and we've always had one generator. And we've had a small solar setup that we could set up really quickly to get some batteries charged and run an inverter. But that solar setup has never really been complete. So, not in this video, in another one, we're gonna set that solar setup up. But today, I'm gonna show you the generator that we have and that we've had for a long time. But then, I wanna show you something that you guys may or may not have a good or bad opinion about. And we got a really good deal. So let's take a look and see what you guys think, and you tell me if you think this thing's worth it or if it's even gonna run. All right, there it is, the Predator inverter 45 50-watt generator. So let me tell you, we went to Harbor Freight earlier today just to grab a few things, and this was in their clearance section, I guess you could call it. So we searched out somebody and we asked some questions, and this is what we found out. So after asking a few questions to some of the people that worked at Harbor Freight, they told us that this was basically something that was bought, taken home, either unboxed, and somebody figured out they didn't want it or whatever, or maybe it didn't work or something along those lines. They said that some of these items have been sent back and tested, and then they just send them right back to the store. I don't think this one's been sent out and tested anywhere. We opened it up. It looked like if it had been unboxed and taken out of the box, that somebody did a fantastic job putting it all back together, but we took a chance on it. This is regular, I think they said a $700 and some odd dollar generator. We paid about $430 for this thing, and if it runs and if it does what it's supposed to do, it'll be a great add to our preps as far as power goes on the farm. Power goes out for any long periods of time, we'll have this generator and the current generator that we have, and probably by the end of next week we'll have the solar stuff set up. So let's get this thing unboxed, let's check the oil, check the gas, and see what it looks like. They also gave us 5 days to try it out and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, bring it back. So we're gonna try it out today, and if it don't work, we take it back tomorrow. So hang tight, I'm gonna get this thing out of the box, show you all the pieces and parts comes with it, maybe even tell you some specs on it, I don't know. I'm not all that scared of Predator. My dad's had one for quite some time and it works great. So yeah, here we go. All right, so these look like some O-rings and extra pieces and parts. Oh, those are even some jets. So this says high altitude jets, and so this is going to be different. That's pretty cool. A lot of times you don't find stuff like that. A lot of times you just got to get it and see what's going on with it. So this is an RV adapter. So this would plug in, and then you could plug your RV cord in right there off the back of it. And it's got another bag of something in there. Let's see what that is. Let's see what that is. Oh, this feels like a tool kit. Yes, tool. So that's going to be spark plug. It feels like a screwdriver and something else. So little tool kit to work on it with if you're stuck out in the field with it somewhere. It doesn't want to go back together, but oh, there it goes. All right, so let's get all that put to the side. It's got the owner's manual. So, okay, I just changed my theory. This is the bag that the generator would have been in down inside this box. So it has been out of the box. Okay. This is the oil. Doesn't feel like it's had oil run through it. All right. All right, so I know for a fact I'm not gonna be able to pick this up by myself. Hang tight. All right, so there it is. Just trying to check out some of the stuff here on it. So That looks like, I'm not sure what that is. It says parallel operation. You got some indicator lights here. This is gonna be USB ports. That looks like some kind of charger. Ooh, that looks like a pin. That is a GFCI receptacle, so that's gonna be a ground fault, just like in your bathrooms in your house. These are gonna be breakers here. That is another just GFI, and then that one is going to be your 30 amp for like RVs and whatnot. And then you got an on off here. All right, so there's a few things that I want to check out. So this is a pull start. It's pull start, so it pulls. Okay. Oil is down here. And it's a little greasy down there. It's had gas in it. All right, so I'm gonna get a rag. I'm gonna clean up the oil mess down there and make sure it's got enough oil in it. I'm gonna get some fuel and I'm gonna put this thing on the ground and we're gonna try it out and see what we get.
What?
It's got plenty. All right, guys, so I looked at this and I remember I said there was oil all on the bottom of it. So I looked at it, and whoever had it, and you can see it a little bit right there. I don't know if that's going to focus or not, or if you can even hear me with all the wind. Anyhow, they cross-threaded it a little bit, so that's obviously where all the oil was coming from. It's plastic. It wasn't very hard to get it running there right. I put the machine back down flat. I put this in there. It does have plenty of oil in it, so I'm going to put this dipstick back in there, tighten it up, and get some fuel, get this down on the ground, and try to crank it. All right, so moment of truth. I've attracted Jamie out here because if this thing runs and works, it's going to be kind of like a big time score for us. Anyway, so we're gonna turn it on.
Fuel is on.
Fuel line is on.
You gotta
Pull the choke out. All right, so the choke's pulled out. I don't know about you guys, but I would say that the Harbor Freight generator is a score. Like I said, my dad's had one for quite some time and it has worked out really well. We've used it in a lot of situations, so I'm not scared of the brand at all. Harbor Freight's got a pretty good thing going, but we're about to look at our other generator. We've had this one for a while, so I just did a little fixing on it a couple days ago. Anyway, it's out at the barn, so we're going to talk about it real quick, and then we'll talk about why we have fail safes after fail safes after fail safes when it comes to prepping around your homestead. All right, so this generator is not as fancy as the last one. This is a bit older. We actually saved this generator. My brother-in-law has a small residential construction business, and he bought this generator for when he did jobs at houses that did not have power yet. It rode around the back of his truck. It didn't agree with getting rained on and water and stuff like that. So at some point or another, it wouldn't crank for him. And he set it out beside his house, and it just kind of sat there. I'm pretty sure he was going to throw it away, and I asked him about it, and he was like, man, you can take it. He said, if you can get it running, have at it. So I did. I cleaned the gas tank out on it, and at that time, I put a new carburetor on it. And I want to say I put a coil on it for the spark plug. And if I'm not mistaken, I had about $40 in fixing this thing. And it has run like crazy ever since. We built this barn that we're under using the power from this thing. And then I let it sit up. And the crappy gas that we have these days, with all this ethanol stuff in it, it just ate the carburetor up. So I decided, why not buy another $13 carburetor and see if that'll just fix it. So let me run around this thing, show you what I did, and we'll see if it'll fire up. I had it running the other day, it's running like a champ. So let me show you what I got. So here's all the info on this bad boy. So 5,250 watts, and this is a 10 horsepower Tecumseh motor. I'm gonna tell you, it runs strong. So here recently, let me break out the, so this is the carburetor that was on it. All right, it goes in there like that. You got a vacuum, fuel in, and then a choke, and then you got the little butterfly on the top there. Choke opens up. This bad boy was it was roached out. So we put a new one on there. Get them on Amazon for $13 all day long. But it was also about time to change out the petcock, because that little rubber gasket was leaking. So we replaced the hose down to a filter, and then we shortened up that piece of hose going into here, and man, it fired right up. The filter, I took the filter up to the house and blew it out with the air compressor. It's been a couple of days, so we're gonna give it a whirl and see if she'll fire back up. All right, so we're gonna give her a shot. It's choked. All right, so now that we've talked about these things and we see that we have them and we see that we have more than one, let's talk about for a reason why we need more than one and what we can do to make sure that these things are in good shape before we ever have to have them in an emergency situation, grid down situation, anything. So the first thing you want to think about when you have a generator or even a lawnmower or a motorized pressure washer, anything along those lines, you need to run that unit periodically. Even if you're not using it, you need to fire it up and let it run. It's just kind of letting it stretch its legs and keep itself up to date. And if it shows any problems at that point, you can fix them now versus, oh my gosh, I gotta have it, and it won't run. This blue generator right here, the whole reason it got me into this kick was I came out to grab it a couple months ago and was like, oh, man, I really need to get this thing out and get it fired up. And lo and behold, it wouldn't crank. And then I got to thinking, I was like, man, golly, what if the power goes out or whatever? All this meat in the garage up here and all these freezers are going to go bad. And then I got to think about, I was like, wow, what if we have an extended grid down thing like they did in Texas? Oh, so upkeep on them. Probably want to get a couple extra things for them. Maybe an extra spark plug, maybe some extra filters, just a few little odd and end things like that so that you can keep it running. You want to change the oil on it every now and again and just keep it in good health, you know, just like you do yourself. So those are going to be some of the biggest things with the upkeep on anything with a small motor on it. Chainsaws, lawnmowers, generators, whatever it may be, keep it running, check on it, fire it up every now and again. You'll thank yourself when you need it that day. So the last thing we'll talk about with generators is going to be fuel storage. So you got to be realistic with this stuff. If you have a situation to where the grid is down or the power's out for multiple days in a row and you're having to run off of a generator, eventually you're going to run out of fuel. And on top of that, if you kept 50 gallons or 100 gallons or 500 gallons of fuel around, if you did prep that large, you have to keep that fuel stable. That's difficult to do, especially with the way they make fuel these days. With all the ethanol in it, it just doesn't keep as long as it used to. So on top of keeping a fuel supply that you'll have to cycle through, you have to get a bigger tank or a few bigger tanks, and you'll have to run that through your lawnmowers throughout the summer. You have to run it in your pressure washer. You have to run it in your generators and whatnot when you're not using them. And the other thing that you can do is there's a product called Stay-Bil. It is a fuel stabilizer that gives you all of the information as to how much of this liquid to add to your fuel to help keep it stable for much longer than it would straight out of the pump. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the next option that we'll do a later video on that is going to be very, very important for a long-term grid down situation. So a lot of us laugh and giggle when we start talking about electric cars and electric this and electric that. The world's going electric and the world's changing and blah, blah, blah. I'm not a fan of electric cars either, but there are many, many things that are detrimental to the way of life that we've been taught to live that rely on electricity. Now, I'm not talking about doing something drastic. I'm not talking about covering your whole entire roof with solar panels. Now you can. That could get expensive. But what I'm talking about is a solar setup that will give you periodic power in long enough time periods to keep things running. I'm going to give you some tips and things like that so that you can start looking at solar setups on your own. And then we're going to do a video soon on the solar setup that we've gotten. We've collected some parts over time and we're just about ready to put it all together and get it hooked up and start collecting solar power in case of an emergency. All right, so when you're thinking in this manner, you need to think about as frugal as you can be. What do you want to make sure you can run for any amount of time? So maybe a refrigerator or a freezer. That way you would have a way to keep meats cold and you can preserve it for longer. Maybe an electric something to cook on. Maybe a fan, maybe some way to help keep yourself cool in an extreme summer situation. So the way that you need to go about doing that is you need to find those items and you need to see how many watts that they take, okay? And when I talk about watts, electricity is measured in all sorts of stuff. It's measured in volts and joules. I just went blank, and I'm an electrician. So volts, joules, amps, watts, all these different things. But when you're talking about solar stuff, your solar panels are measured in watts, and then your inverters that will convert the power from batteries that are being charged by the solar panels, that is what you will gauge your appliances off of. All right, so if you want to run a very small amount of lights, you could do that off of one of these things. But we chose a 2,000 watt inverter. Okay, so it has peak, I think, at 3,000 watts, I think, but it has a constant give at 2,000 watts. So I looked at some things that I thought I would run, which would have been things like saws, okay, skill saws, miter saws, things like that. If you were in that situation and you had to build something or fix something, this setup would be able to run saws. A refrigerator, a freezer, all of those things. So you got to think about a solar setup. You're not using that type of power all day long. So it's really about charging the batteries and then how long the battery bank that you have will last. So if you can be smart with a freezer, right? You have the freezer and it runs, and then you can take extra blankets and put on top of these freezers to help keep them insulated. They'll stay cooler longer and you can cycle them. So you'll have them on for so long and then you can have them off. You have them on for so long, then you have them off. But at that point, it will be about load management. When I say load, I'm talking about your electric load. So whatever you have plugged up is running off the power, that's your load. All of those things will be very, very important for you to manage. And in that situation, you can go as big or small as you want. You can run your whole house off solar, but it might cost you $25,000 to do it. The solar setup that I'm going to be putting together, oh gosh, if I got $1,200 or $1,500 in it, I'd be amazed. But I'll go over some of that stuff. And some of these parts were acquired, some of them were bought. I really, really shopped and figured out what I wanted and things like that. So once we get to that video, you'll understand. But this is backup power, okay? This is going to be very, very important to you once you get there, because the first thing that you're going to miss is electricity. I promise you. You won't get hungry for a couple of days, but you go a whole day to 2 days without electricity, you're going to be hurting, just because of the way that the world has wired us to be. So power, think deeply about power and having backups and fail-safes to be able to man your homestead with electricity the way that you need it to be in a grid down situation. So guys, that's going to be it for this one. I appreciate you guys watching. If you don't mind, please go down and like and subscribe. Ring that bell so you see all the videos that we put out. Down in the comment section, please, please, please let me know if you are interested in this content, if you're getting anything out of it, and if you want us to continue and do more of this content or not. But until then, we will see you on the next video.